well, we're setting up for the Q&A. Can we get all of our filmmakers up? All righty. A great array of new films with new people. All right. A couple of things. Remember, we're Facebook Live. Michael, we're going to have you come a little bit closer this way so we avoid feedback on the speakers. And when we get to the Q&A with the audience, if people will wait until we get a mic to you. All right. We good?
All right, check. If you could give one of them the microphone. Hello, everybody. How are we doing today? Good. All right. Yeah, I know it's dreary out there, but come on, give us a little energy. All right. Well, I'm Michael Anthony. I'll be moderating the panel. The founder and creative director of Pure Flow Productions, but I'm also a teaching artist here at Docs in Progress. I teach the Intro to Documentary course. Also, I facilitate the Legacy Fellowship that we have going on. And so we have our filmmakers up here. Please give them a round of applause again. And I'd like to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves and their films really quickly. So.
Okay, thank you. First, my name is Sarah Lee. I created DC Black Superhero, and I want to thank Adele and Stacy for helping me get everything together, and Brian Terrell. I was in the Intro to Documentary Filmmaking program, and he helped guide my vision. So I want to say thank you to him.
Thank you. And if you could pass that microphone to.
I'm Myron Higgins, and I directed Got Led.
All right, thank you.
I'm Nana Vaughn, and I'm representing my daughter, Anya Vaughn, who's the filmmaker for the last film, The Tale of Mari. She couldn't be here today because she and her grandmother are in Okinawa right now for another film festival.
Oh, awesome.
Hi, my name is Adrian Isasi, and I made the film Bookworm.
All right. Well, thank you, guys. All right, so, obviously I'm going to ask a few questions, but then we do want to open it up to the audience to ask some questions. So, first question. Was this any of y'all's first film? It was Myron? That's it? And you guys as well?
It's the first film not first, I guess you could say that, yeah.
It was. So then how was the experience, would you say, with it being your first film?
Definitely stressful for me. I definitely had, didn't have much time to make it. I only had 3 months to make the whole film, and I was already on a tight deadline, and I had to go through a lot of malfunction and errors and changing of the script and what I wanted to do, but luckily it ended up being okay. So I was glad I did it, but it was still very hard trial.
Baptism by fire, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Myron?
I had a beautiful experience. It was a process because it took time over a couple of years to put everything together, all the footage, and I had a great team to work with, and met a lot of people along the way, and learned the process of being a filmmaker. So it was a beautiful experience.
And Nina, you said that Nana,
Nana.
And this was your daughter's first film.
Well,
Look,
she's
this is her for MFA, right?
Yeah, it was for her MFA. So, there was a lot of filmmaking that went, built up to it. But it's her first film that she felt was worthy of submitting to film festivals.
All right. And then, so this is not your first film. So then, is this what number in your filmography?
I would agree with Nana. This is the first film I've ever submitted to a film festival that I felt was a true product. I've made small little health fitness videos. I've always liked to experiment with the camera, and it was just something I thought would be a good storytelling experience.
Okay, well, fantastic. And all you guys, one thing or theme that I realized when watching your films is that they were all profile pieces, right? And very specific in the nature. It wasn't like this general kind of getting information out, to the public about, cosplay or lead poisoning or Japanese art or just the little library. Why'd you guys, go so specific in your storytelling?
I always love to hear a personal motivation, like why somebody does something quirky. And I think sometimes those people are kind of shunned, especially in this area, the DMV. Everybody's very professional, and I work as an analyst in the, Institute of da-da-da. And I'm like, what about the people who do things that aren't what is socially normative? And I just wanted to find someone who might illuminate a different voice in the community.
Well, personally, it was a personal story of mine. I like to express myself. Art, music is my passion, so I do a lot of community advocacy as well. So I met my partners and my team through Johns Hopkins University and doing a program, working and learning how to express yourself through storytelling and videography and all of that. So it was like, I don't know no other story to tell better than my own story. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I was more specific to that.
When Anya was trying to decide what she was going to do for her thesis, it was around the same time that my brother rediscovered some of my mom's old comics. And she had a stack of them when I was growing up, a big stack of comics that she had created and sent them to Jim Davis, as she said. When she gave up, she really gave up. And so we don't know what happened to them, but he found about 10 of them. And so he sent that around to the family. And she had no idea sorry, I'm getting emotional. As an animation major, she had no idea that her grandmother had done something so similar. And so when those came up, she thought, oh, how can I do this and make it into a story? And she'd never thought about doing a documentary at all. But so that was kind of the germ of the idea. When she started talking to my mom, they got a lot into Japanese or Okinawan history because, you know, her grandfather was indigenous Okinawan. And so they talked about that and some of the struggles of Okinawan people, both from Japan and from America. And so she kind of went into the weeds with that. And then as she got into it, she realized this is a much bigger movie than she really had the ability to do as a single lone filmmaker. So she went back to what she had originally thought she was going to focus on, which is just her grandma's comics, and that kind of helped to tie it all together. And so she edited a lot of the footage that she had gotten to make of that.
Sorry, what was the question again?
No, I forgot. Why were you so specific as far as like with yours? You know, it's about our little library, right? And it's about going into neighborhoods and free little libraries. But you did it specifically on like the community people who had those little libraries, as opposed to like the organization. Why were you so specific as far as the community building in your story, as opposed to the organization itself?
Well, funny thing is that I was actually trying to get in contact with the organization, Free Little Libraries, the website, and they actually recommended me to talk to the stewards, the people that created the little libraries in Baltimore. So I figured I'll take their advice and do that, because I thought that this was also something that I didn't know much about. I wasn't I barely read. I'm not that I'm not that professional. I have a little library at my house, but I barely use it. So I guess I wanted to learn about it as I film it, and what better way to learn about it than hearing from the people who have some of their own and as to why.
Awesome. And then of course another theme is that there's art. Obviously books are art. Comics are art. Music is art. Cosplay is art, right? So why did you use documentary? Obviously this is Docs in Progress, right? Why use the medium of documentary to tell these stories, as opposed to writing an article, doing a comic, doing an album, or doing a performance?
Well, I guess this was for a class of mine at university. So at first I didn't really know what I was going to do, what I was going to make it about, but I guess it just kind of popped into my head because my main thing was I wanted to make it about something that, like something physical, something like a thing that everyone can connect to together, and anyone can be involved in. It doesn't this is for a certain audience, a certain demographic. I wanted it to make something that anyone can relate to and anyone can have. So that was the reason why I wanted to make it like a documentary of it, seeing what these people really had to say about these.
I think Barbara's outside with the microphone on. Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. But yeah, that was my main inspiration as to why I wanted to make a documentary behind it.
Talking to Anya about her filmmaking process, I mean, for an animator, it's fairly unusual to do a documentary. And so at first she felt very intimidated by that process, but she felt like the best way to tell the story about her grandmother's art was also through animation. And so you saw that she took some of her comics and made them into puppets that she then animated through stop motion. And the other technique that she used was called rotoscope, which is where you actually take footage and then you trace over it frame by frame. And I think she was ready to pull her hair out at the end of that process because it took a long, long time. But it just seemed like that documentary was the best way to tell her story.
I chose documentary because I had great teachers that was showing me the way and how to do that, you know what I'm saying, which became my teammates. And I celebrate 20 years of being an independent artist next year, so 2026. And this is a great platform to not only expose my music, but expose who I am as a person. And I think people connect more with you personally than what you have to sell or anything like that, so.
I wanted to show something uplifting about people of color. My experience, I love documentaries, and I'm a person who just watches Canopy, PBS. But for me, overwhelmingly, a lot of the stories told about African Americans come from a place of sadness or, struggle. And I thought this was really fun. Like, there's nothing you have to cry about, feel sad. And I have kids, so my kids are my kid and the other kids I watch are in the movie, and I wanted something they could watch and at the end feel really joyful. So that was my motivation for using the documentary platform, just to offer an alternative to some of the standard topics that you see on Black people that might just be fun, something everybody could sit around the table and watch and it'd be silly. So, yeah.
Awesome. And then this is my last question before I open it up. So, when we make documentaries, it's supposed to make an impact. Right. Now, sometimes when we make a documentary, we don't even know if it's going to have an impact or not. Sometimes we just want to tell a story. Right. So it's kind of a two-part question. When you made this or when your daughter made this, was there a certain impact that you had? And now that you've seen it out there in the world, and people have engaged with it and come to you, have you sensed a different sort of impact that you did not even think that was going to occur?
For me, I think I just want to try to get better, especially watching these awesome movies. Like I said, this was my first opportunity to make a standard documentary film, so I see areas to improve. I heard some sound glitches in there, and I've reached out and gave my cards to people who can help me. So I think for me, it's just, okay, this next idea that I want to do, how can I make it a better quality and polish it? But also just realizing there is a market for uplifting Black stories and how to find those stories in the universe to tell that might be for children and for families, and that's kind of my personal impact. But I don't know how other people feel, so this is my first time doing this, so I'm curious to get feedback.
Hold on, this is not your first screening though, right?
It
is?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, hey, our first screening, everybody! Look at that. Well, this is the world premiere.
The impact that I feel the film did from prior screenings is people really connect with it. People interested in the story because it's not just that the lead poisoning, it's other things that are like lead poisoning that other people might be dealing with. So through my personal story and struggles and sacrifices and successes, you can see how to relate that to yourself, to something that you might be personally dealing with.
Repeat the question one more time, sorry.
The impact,
okay,
so
okay.
what, was there a certain impact that your daughter was trying to make with this film? And of course, you probably being part of the process, and then since it's been filmed, and of course they're in Okinawa now, so it must have an impact there. Since it's been screened and viewed, have people come up to you and said anything about how it impacted them?
Right. So I think it's had a very personal impact on our family because we've just been revisiting, our own family history. And she also got other family members involved. Like my brother was the one who composed the music for it. And so, there was kind of a multifactorial impact within our small little community of our family. But then in the bigger world too, I think it maybe raises, she told the story in a very compact way of this woman who she tried to be an artist, got shut down by someone, and then but then you think about how she just gave up, and how Jim Davis. When we were doing the research, she found a Wikipedia article about Jim Davis and how when he was a aspiring comic artist, he tried to come up with an idea, and he sent it off to a comic, and who told him this is not going to sell. And so you should, and so he instead of giving up, he thought, oh, let me revamp this idea and try again. And that's it, the impact for that on me was that this is, in the 1970s, how a white man would, react. Oh, okay, well, let me just redo this. And here is this, housewife, Japanese woman living at home. She thought, okay, well, it's not going to sell, and this is the only story I have. So, so I guess just give up. And just think about how many, Japanese cartoons are so popular in the United States now too. And so, I just think it just helps people to think a little bit about what, the mindset was of people in that time period, mindset of people who are indigenous and whose language is being stolen from them in so many ways. And but she managed to do that. I'm just so in awe of how she managed to do that in just such a compact way.
So I think the impact that I kind of wanted to make on this film was not just about it wasn't just like an advertisement, or a commercial, go get a little free library. My main impact that I wanted to make behind this was how we should still be engaging in observing media in the physical form nowadays, because we live in quite a digital age where there's screens almost everywhere around us, and a lot of stuff that we consume are now on screens, and a lot of people are forgetting about books because it's not as needed as much as we thought it did. But I still think that we should, even as someone who doesn't read that much and doesn't, because grew up as Gen Z, just growing up with screens all the time, I still think that there's something special about reading something in the physical form, about reading a book, and that when you have a closer connection with media, it does make an impact. And I guess that's the impact that I wanted to show through this film. That it wasn't just about the little libraries, about the books inside, and how the little libraries are helping that, preserving something that is necessary, and how physical media should still be valued and still have meaning and still be read by future generations to come. So that was the impact that I mainly wanted to make on this film.
All right, awesome. All right, so do we have any questions from the audience at all? Yes, sir.
For little libraries, has there, when you're talking to people who own them, is there any correlation between the house they chose? Does the little library reflect who the owner is?
It would usually be based on what kind of books they put in there, or what genres of books that they mainly like to have in there, or what other stuff they'll put that are more than just books, like sometimes movies or sometimes textbooks. But most of the time it would usually be a collection of many different kinds of things. Most of the time, if it's a family, one of the people that I was with has a bunch of kids, and she said that sometimes they would put children books in there, and a lot of different kinds of, sometimes toys and bookmarks to help kids learn to read and become better at reading. So yeah, I would say there was a lot of correlation between the book owners, the little library owners, and what was inside the library.
Check. All right, any other questions? Yes, that gentleman right there.
Well, hi there. This has been a really good screening, so thanks for doing this, all of you. I really enjoyed each film. So you've got to this stage. I just wonder, are you thinking of your next projects now? Do you have plans in line for what you're doing next?
Not at the moment, but I'll probably think of something.
Anya, like I said, she's in Japan right now, in Okinawa, and so one of the things that she's doing is researching for potential new topics related to Okinawa. But she also has done some other projects, and she and her boyfriend are working on a video game, of course. But all kinds of things.
Outside of music, I do want to continue in film and doing documentaries and collaborating with other filmmakers and producers and just showcase my talent and my skills and storytelling, because I'm full of talent and skills, so I can take one thing and add it to something that somebody else has to make it come to life.
Yes, I'm working on a project about my mom, who was in a singing group that was discovered by Berry Gordy's wife. And they owned it was called Shrine Records, and his wife owned a record company in Washington, D.C., and all the records were burned down during the riots after Martin Luther King was assassinated. So I'm going to be taking the archival workshop to learn how to do archival research to make this movie come to life. And now I'm just looking for people to help me flush out the idea, make it more polished.
All right, good. Yes, Adele?
Yes, thank you so much, Sari. At Docs in Progress, what we do here is, besides screenings and festivals and a lot of other things, we give workshops. And I want to highlight that Sari, she produced the DC superhero in one of our workshops, a production class. And what do we do there? Well, we train people on cameras, on editing systems, and they start at zero and come up with a video. And that is now screened at a festival. This is a huge achievement, and I want you all congratulate to all the fantastic films you are doing. And plugging that in, I mean, our programs, look at our programs. We have on the postcard out there talking about books. We have also Docs Reads. We read, we invite people, authors who are documentary related, and they're producing books, and we do sessions with them here. Sari, could you just tell us a little bit of that experience, what you had with Brian in the production class? What was the most, let's say, moment of epiphany you had in that process? And by the way, a production class is coming up on Saturday, so if you want to sign up, it's coming up.
I think the best thing I took from that class, Brian was an excellent instructor, he was very patient, was that he said, you want to see people, you want to see something. He said it's a visual experience, because we went through so many different ideas, and I think, when you're creating something in your head, you see it, but he kept telling us to put ourselves in the viewer's perspective, and he's like, you want to see action and color and movement, and, take the viewer on a journey, and I think that's what, I've loved everything today. I thought these were excellent documentaries that I hope to share, but that's one thing that resonated for me when coming out of the workshop.
One little thing, the last thing. Michael Anthony is the teaching artist at Docs in Progress. He is leading the production class next Saturday. He is also the teaching artist for our Legacy Fellowship program. We have fantastic teaching artists here, and what you learn here is, will set you off for life in your storytelling journey.
Well, thank you. I don't know what else to say. Any other questions?
Hi, yeah, thank you for sharing the wonderful documentaries. I was curious as to, was there anything that surprised you during the process, whether the filming or the editing? Yeah, any surprises?
Well, it was a great surprise on just the product itself and how it all came out as one. Like I say, we was filming this for 3 to 4 years before we even came up with the idea to have it as a whole film, because I was in Baltimore Youth Films Art Program, then I was in Sawson's Innovation Fund. I was in so many programs dealing with becoming a filmmaker, so it was a lot of surprises and just knowing how the process worked in itself.
I think one of the things that Anya has said about her filmmaking was that it was really grandma driven, because there's a lot of humor in it and everything, and it's basically it was kind of surprising to her getting to know her grandmother better through the process of making the film, but how funny she was, and that helped. If she wasn't as funny as she was, it wouldn't have made the film as good as it was. So I think that was the biggest surprise for her.
I guess something that really surprised me was the amount of passion that these people had in their little libraries, and how they made it out of many different things, and how it would be take many different forms. Like be a Doctor Who one, like the telephone booth. There'd be sometimes they would use doll houses as to make a free little library. They'd make it out of anything they can. So I guess what struck me so much is how much passion they had for the little free libraries, and how they had a personal connection with them.
I think the biggest surprise was how you have to really watch your sound. I did not factor that in, and like my kid and I got in an argument, and she slammed. You can hear her slamming the door, and then the sound when I'm trying to interview people, and then I'm short, and my camera was like here and looking up people's noses, and there's just so many technical aspects to filmmaking, and I have so much respect for people who create something for a viewer from the point of pleasure. It takes a lot of work to think of all the components to make a viewing experience pleasurable, and that's what I hope to improve upon on the next product.
And another question.
Hi. I just want to say I really enjoyed all of you all's films. But my question is for Myron, since you directed and were the subject of your doc, what were some, or maybe what did you learn from the process, or what were some challenges that you experienced being the director and the subject of your first film?
Well, I had a great team to start off with, so but I enjoy it. You know, I enjoy the challenges. That's my life story. It's a challenge, so I enjoy finding this perfect solution to be able to make it all come together. I learned the process. I learned the process of being on camera, because I enjoy being off camera more so, even though I do music. So it's just like being comfortable with being on camera and having a raw feeling. It's not staged, because I do acting as well, so it's not staged though. It's like I gotta really express myself freely and be the subject. So that was challenging, but I'm comfortable with being vulnerable and going through the challenges.
And one thing I realized too is that it was like a reflexive sort of mode, because it was like you're the filmmaker and you're also giving us a behind the scenes sort of like everywhere you walked into you had a tripod, right? But then you had a camera person there too, and it was like, man, you ain't shooting the camera too, you know. But that's sort of like a storytelling technique, you know. You're grabbing this tripod and you're going in, and yeah, and it's a personal documentary too, you know, and you including everybody in there. And I think like everybody sort of put themselves in there. So like your hands, we can see like those were your hands on the books. Adrian? They were, you know, so then you were sort of in there, and then I think you were in the documentary of your daughters, right? Yeah. I know she was in there as well, but then you weren't.
I had on a wig.
You had a wig on? Oh, so when you was dancing in front of him? Oh, okay, so then how did it feel to sort of put yourself in, you know, because, you know, as him being a personal, but y'all are sort of about profile pieces, how did it feel to kind of put yourselves in your pieces, and why was the decision behind that? And then, yes, I'll get to the questions. Yeah, Barbara's got you.
Oh, I was going to say narcissistic for me. I was like, I'm going to be in this movie. Y'all going to see my face. So it was just pure vanity.
No wrong with that.
I didn't know I was going to be in it. So, but yes, so when she was recording, I mean, there was a camera, but I thought it was going to be a reference. I didn't understand rotoscope, that she was actually going to be tracing us. So, yeah.
I didn't really know much about subject that I was making the film about, so I kind of put myself out there as another viewer, learning about all this community and little free libraries and what it means, what the value behind it, also about the whole physical media thing. That was something that I never really thought about either. You know, I grew up with nothing but screens my whole life and the internet, so like reading will always be like a chore to me. So when I see all these other people like valuing it and enjoying it and loving it, I look outside like, well, what do you see in that? It would sometimes like frustrate me, and I get jealous of how they can do it. But then I realized obviously you have a lot of passion towards it and care towards it. You're putting this much effort into it to keep it alive. So that's why I kind of went in, you know, as like another viewer, because I learned about it myself as well.
That's awesome. All All right, and anybody else? Oh, yes.
I feel like Gen Z really needs like their own Harry Potter or something. My question, I really thought this block was so interesting because there were so many different devices of storytelling. You have sit-down interviews, you have animation, you have real moments, you have even some sort of scripted elements in some spots. I'm wondering if just the filmmakers can kind of comment on the decisions made for those specific storytelling devices and why you thought that was the best method to tell your own story in the film.
Well, my main style that I guess I was going for in terms of storytelling was possibly, I guess, having just the voices of the people instead of the faces of the people, because I also wanted the Little Free Libraries to be like a representative, like personification, taking its human form as well. I thought that was a quite interesting, and also I didn't have enough time to film everybody.
I love when he closed the door and then their voices stopped.
Yeah. Because like I also wanted to make the theme and the idea that these Little Free Libraries almost have the connection to the community, and how they, have connected people together and have neighbors and people get to meet each other and know more about the place that they live in.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome. But real quick before you pass the mic, what class? Because you said you made this for a class, so you're like
Right.
3 months. What class was it?
Documentary.
Oh,
It was a
what
documentary
school?
class at Towson University.
Towson. All right, fantastic. All right.
Anya used a lot of different mixed media. So, as I mentioned before, the rotoscope, the puppets, the puppetry that she used for her grandma's comics. We sourced the comics through eBay, the old 1970s comics and 80s. And then she also got some Japanese fabrics that she wanted to use to represent femininity and family. And so she likes to have a lot of hidden symbols in her. There's a ton of them because I just know, like, one Easter egg was, she talked to my brother about this, but they start out with piano music, and then, which is American, and then it takes like a minor tone to symbolize like the oppression. And then it changes to the Japanese shamisen to when it goes into the Japanese stuff, and then it segues back. But one little Easter egg that was in there was that when she said, "Well, I married Randy," my dad. The music that's playing is a little leitmotif that is a composition that my dad wrote. So there's just little symbolism in there, both musical and tactile and different techniques.
Well, then, and one other since this was for an MFA, right? She had to do this as a thesis, right? And she had to defend it. Was her thesis paper, on the same lines? Because she had to write a thesis paper on this and do this exhibition. So was her thesis statement and paper, the same as the film, or did it go a little bit deeper? Or is there something that was,
Yeah, she went into like her whole process. Like, for example, looking at, she had to study documentaries because she hadn't done a documentary class. So she looked at other documentary films, and I think she looked at some PBS stories, and then she also looked into just the rotoscope technique. Her thesis I think is about 60 pages long altogether. But yeah, she goes into a lot of that stuff. Yeah.
Well, I'm a historian too, so I'm into learning and researching, and so I actually had to sit and watch what a verite film was, and I learned these different techniques through sitting and actually watching it, so I can put my best foot forward. Also, at putting my best foot forward as far as in, like, I'm creative, I can be funny, I can be serious. You know what I'm saying? I have different aspects to myself, so the best way to put that is just, make a grouping. You know what I'm saying? It took so many years to make the film. It was different things happening at different times that had different aspects of what that was. So, I just tried to display that the best way I could.
I just followed the formula that Brian had set up for us in the class. So, interview, action, movement,
I didn't really use anything specific. So I just did what he told me to do.
All right, next question.
Hi. Two more questions here, and then we're going to have to wrap.
Okay.
Okay.
I have two questions, one for Myron and then one for Anya's mother. For Myron, the lead situation, even from where I'm from in Virginia, there's a bunch of guys that call the lead boys who got a lot of money for kind of the same thing. And I wanted to know from you is your documentary is like wonderful. Has it ever been used at all to support or to assist or help anyone else in their fight for, justice when it comes to the lead, the things that's going on with lead? And then I'll just ask the one for Anya's mom. Love it so much. Okinawa is my hood. I was born there in Ryukyu Island, Macchiato City. I love it. It was absolutely wonderful. And my question is that what does your mother think about anime in this day? Like, how does she feel? Has she said anything about how she feels it's a craze? Everyone wants to be involved with anime. And has she ever thought of picking it back up and doing something? Because I think her voice would be awesome in anime during this time.
Well, I could say not of it in myself or my cousin that's in the film. You know what I'm saying? It hasn't been used like to advocate for anyone. You know what I'm saying? And most of the people that I do know that have the same issues or deal with lead poisoning, we already done went through the bumping of the heads because I spent my money. They got $1 million after that, and I told you, boy, that's not what you're supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? So it's not really too many people that want to take what I have to offer from that aspect.
I think there's a lot of people that would.
I mean,
yeah,
that I have access to, or that I've tried to, share these things with.
Well, I would say you probably have a larger reach than you think. Just like she said, Virginia. You probably have people from New York and Atlanta, because on the project homes, they were project homes and they were built very poorly. So then you probably have a lot of inner city communities that are dealing with this issue, to where even if you kind of shed a light on that, again, it's a very specific story, but it speaks to a general audience. So you could actually use this as an advocacy tool to kind of bring justice and awareness about, because if people don't know that, they tripping out, or getting angry, from lead poisoning in the past, and once they deal with that trauma, then it can lead to not only monetary but then also social impact.
That's what I plan to do. This week we getting started. You know what I'm saying? So we getting started. I appreciate y'all for having us. And another thing is that a woman can pass lead paint through her womb. So this is another thing that is not taken into consideration. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And then the anime.
So I think my mom, she's 77 now, and she also had a stroke, which made her lose control of one of her hands too. So her art days are behind her, but she definitely is very much admiring that her granddaughter is going into this, and she was the first time she saw it was at RIT at their screening, and she was very moved to have this film done about her. Anime, not so much. I mean, she still loves to read comics. I think that was just when she was first in the United States and trying to really get a handle on English. I mean, she was a good English speaker, but very formal. And so just, being part of society, that was a really easy thing for her to read and just learn about society.
Okay, so do we have one more? Okay, well then that's it. So then I think we have somebody come up here to speak from the board.
Yeah, first let's give a...
Yes.
Yeah. This is why I love this organization so much, Docs in Progress. We all have a story, from superheroes to bookworms to, all the other stories. My name is Gregory. I'm the chairman of the board of Docs in Progress, and I've been following this organization for the last 5 years. And I'm a filmmaker myself, like you. I'm thrilled to be in the film festival. If you get the email say you have been accepted, it's a validation of your work. You have an audience. And there are many people who think that they can make stories, can tell stories, can make films, but there is no audience. It's always the missing ingredient, and that's where I think Docs in Progress plays an important role. Meeting other people, networking, giving a platform to talented people like you to tell your story. So congratulations on behalf of the organization, and we have a few board members here as well. I'm here. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to talk to you. And of course, if you think we are doing a good job, don't forget about our fundraising efforts. It's really important nowadays that we become more and more independent from traditional sponsors. But that said, congratulations. It's fantastic. And I give the microphone back to Barbara because she has to make an announcement. Huh?
Okay, so mid-afternoon break, but filmmakers, all filmmakers who are here, remember there is a filmmaker meet and greet for you. That's one of the networking opportunities we want to bring to filmmakers. So with that, also, there's a whiteboard out there. Give us some of your creative talents and have a good afternoon. But remember, filmmakers meet and greet. It's time to meet each other. Yes, and photo ops. Oh, yeah. Thank you for reminding me. Tomorrow afternoon at 3:30 Tacoma Park, there is a fabulous film, Happy Campers, that is closing. And I would like all of you here to be our guests. Gregory talked about non-traditional methods of fundraising. Somebody was very kind and underwrote what is the logistics costs for the event, so that's how we could make it a free ticket. See me or anybody else. Actually, on the postcard has the code.
Actually, it's more than a free ticket. That's a VIP ticket, huh?
It is. All right. I'm not going to give the code on Facebook Live. It's only for people here. So as soon as I shut the mic off, you can talk to me. All righty. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, filmmakers.